Drawing with the pencil tool and then applying strokes is fine, but really if you want more control over the brush strokes you're painting as you're painting them, you want to use the paintbrush tool, which you can select by hitting B on the keyboard. Now if we move over my drawing and I just paint with the default settings, it paints an even weight of line, and there is some smoothing happening there. If we double click the paintbrush tool, notice we have the same fidelity and smoothness settings as we have with the pencil tool. Now we also have the options for keeping paths selected. It's deselected here, unlike with the pencil tool, but you can still edit the path. If we click OK, we can toggle quickly to the selection tool by hitting and holding the Command key or Control key on Windows, select it and just redraw it and it will adjust. So you can treat it like the pencil tool in that way when it's selected, and of course you can switch that option on. But at the moment we have a very even weight of brush, and I don't really want to keep an even weight of brush. Now I can double click the brush and open up the calligraphic brush options, and in here I can do things like adjust the roundness and the angle by using this control or the angle settings down here. And if I click on preview, you'll notice that I'm starting to affect the weight of the line. Now, I don't really want to change the settings for my preset brush, so I'm going to cancel that. If I clicked OK, I can choose whether to apply it to the existing strokes or leave the strokes as they are, but I'm just going to cancel it. And instead, what we're going to do is create a new brush. So I'm going to say create a new calligraphic brush, and we're going to call it Pressure Sensitive Ink Brush. And I'm going to use this for inking my artwork. So instead of using the angle and roundness controls here, what we're going to do is adjust the size, and adjust the size based on the pen pressure. If you don't have a graphics tablet and pen, then you can set it to random and maybe have some random sizes. If I put the size of the brush up and then adjust the variation, you'll see it will give me some random weight without having to use a pen or tablet. But if I do have a graphics tablet, then pressure is probably the best thing to use to control the size. And again, I can add my maximum size and then add variation to that. So by increasing the variation, I'm getting a bigger difference between large and small, and it's showing me that difference here. So let's try it as it is. Let's click OK. And here we see our 36-point pressure sensitive ink brush. If I roll over it, you can see that indicated there. And of course, if I go to list view, it will tell me pressure sensitive ink brush. Now, if I click on here and start to draw, notice as I press harder, it becomes fatter. Now it's far too big at the moment, so a couple of things we could do. We could double click on here and actually go in and adjust the size manually and bring down the variation a little bit. And that will ask us again if we want to apply it to strokes or leave it to strokes. So I'm going to cancel that again, and instead what I'm going to do is just adjust the weight by selecting it first of all and bringing the weight down here to 25 points. So you can adjust the weight after it's been drawn. But really, if you want to create one that's round about that weight, a better way is to drag this onto the new brush button, and this one will go in and double click, and we'll create one that's maybe, I don't know, 10 points with a variation of 5 points, or maybe a little bit higher, 7. And now, if we select our brush tool and start painting again, we've got a much nicer weight of line. And of course, I can change that as many times as I want. It's actually a little bit too small. So let's go up to 20 and quite a lot of variation. We can see that changing. So we get an idea of how that's going to affect the line work. And I'll click OK and say apply to strokes. So we can continue to paint now. And when I press really lightly, I get a thin stroke. When I press harder, I get a thick stroke. And I can vary the pressure to create different weights of line. So really nice way of drawing using the Wacom tablet. Now, if you're drawing using the Wacom tablet, you also probably want to adjust the Wacom settings. I tend to press quite hard, so if I go to my Wacom settings, I adjust my tip field to firm, and that means that even if I press quite hard, and I can test that by just pressing down, I'm not getting the full width of the brush unless I press quite hard. Whereas if I go to soft, I don't have to press very hard at all to get the full size. So if you're heavy-handed, choose firm. If you're light-touched, choose soft. And of course, I'm heavy-handed, I'm afraid to say. So now it's much easier for me to create that variable width and tail off the lines as I need them. So I'll press hard here to create a thick edge and thin it off towards the end. Now, it's never easy to draw artwork in front of people, as you can see by the result of what I've done here. So I've actually got another version which you can open up and have a look at and have a practice with, where I've applied some calligraphic brushes to the artwork and drawn using pressure-sensitive brush strokes. And this is the kind of result you end up getting. Now, depending on which brushes you use and which kind of strokes you use, you get very, very different effects. So the same drawing can look really different depending on the brushes you use. So we're going to have a look at some of the other brushes in some later movies. But that's a little bit about the calligraphic brushes and how to start painting with brushes.